Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to another recommendations video. I try to make these ones as quick and succinct as I can and get you through the recommendations, and today's going to be no different. I realized that I hadn't made a plus-sized heroine rec video in a while, and so I put us together. Before I get started, I want to say a huge thank you to my patrons and channel members who make it possible for me to do this full time, for me to read to my heart's content. Well, I mean, I would read 24 hours a day if I could, but as much as I can. If you are interested in supporting this channel in any way, I have links down below for that. But on to today's video. So these fall into, of course, all different levels of plus size and all different levels of, you know, mentally how the heroines feel about themselves. So I just want to be clear that some of these, it's been a while since I've read them. I believe most of the heroines, except for a couple of these ones, are all pretty like body positive about how they feel. But just know that that's always kind of a risk, because also to me personally, I'm okay with a little bit of a heroine being uncomfortable in their body. And the first one I'm going to talk about is actually like, I very much relate to it. So use discernment in that. Maybe look up a little bit more detailed triggers for these, because I'm okay with there being a little bit of struggle with weight or how they feel, because I love my body and there still are times where I struggle. So just know that there's going to be different levels. Because the first one I want to talk about is actually Beautiful Distractions by Lydia Michaels. I read this book recently. All of her books are coming on audio, and these books are like being re-released, and I'm very excited about it. But this heroine, she has moved to a new town. She's moved to the town that has McCullough Mountain on it. And she is trying to get healthy because she is 30 and she's had a couple meetings with her doctor where her doctor is really concerned about her health. And again, this is where I really relate. And I've mentioned many times, like 5 years ago, I really clicked it into gear that I would be healthier. So our heroine, I really appreciate the way that she's doing that. She's doing it by exercise, and the part where I think could be a little uncomfortable is her very strict about her diet, to the point that at times it causes some strife between the hero and the heroine. And there are times in the book where the hero is very frustrated with how like meticulous she's being, and he just can't understand. And for I think Mallory is the heroine's name. She's just like, you don't understand. Weight has never been an issue for you or anyone in your family, and I have to be strict to stay on it, you know? And there'll be times where he is frustrated with that. And I would be frustrated with him, but I would also get his point of view. But I really loved this one. This starts as like a friends to lovers, and the hero is actually dating someone else at the beginning. It's his long time on again, off again girlfriend. And when Mallory moves to town and he starts to befriend her, he really sees kind of a lot more of the bad sides of the woman he's dating. And when he breaks up with her, his friendship with Mallory kind of goes to the next level. And why I wreck this, even with the parts that could be uncomfortable. Number one, like I said, because I personally related with this heroine. So even though there was story points that were annoying to me, I related to her a lot. And so her frustrations, I could see myself in the parts of her that were frustrating me, and so it's there in it. But the hero, when they have one of their sex scenes, he is so gentle but firm with her about what he expects and what he will accept. And it's good things. Like, I know having a hero say that is tough sometimes, but he's like, I'm not only going to see you in the dark. Like, I love all of you. And if you need to work on that, like, we'll work on that. But like, I'm not going to accept only the parts you want to show me. And that can be uncomfortable. And I think based on some of the reviews of this, I think that doesn't work for some people. So I understand it. And like I said, that's why I'm trying to say, like, look more into specific triggers for these. But the way that he does just like body worship of her. And even though it's very hard for her in certain aspects to accept, it's also like so beautiful when he gets through to her. And this isn't him completely fixing her with his love. That is not what this book is. She is not ready to hear it in certain parts of this. They will have fights because she's like, you're not getting it. Like, I can't just drop this, you know? And it spoke to me and it hurt, but it was good. Okay, next is Deceived by the Gargoyles by Lillian Lark. I don't have like too much to say about this one. We have a lovely plus size librarian witch who you can tell by the cover. Lillian Lark always does wonderful, you know, having art commissioned for the covers that match her heroines. This one is a reverse harem, but it does have some sword crossing. And actually there is a poly relationship between 3 gargoyles before they bring in the heroine. And one of the gargoyles, he wants them to have a mate. He wants them to have children. And so he starts on a dating app, or I mean through a matchmaker, trying to find a witch that will work for them. So it's called Deceived by the Gargoyles because he does, you know, in the beginning, hide the fact that he's already in a relationship. But I enjoyed this and I enjoyed how they loved her body. I always love that. So that was a good time. Then I just recently read, and it was actually the reason I wanted to do this book, is I'm reading this series by Talia Hibbert. Now, before I show which one it is, this isn't my favorite Talia Hibbert, but 90% of Talia Hibbert's books have plus size heroines. They're usually a plus size black heroine, and that's fantastic. So this is just me diving into some books of hers that I haven't read yet. I definitely recommend her like whole host of books. So I know people in the comments who love her will be like, oh, this one. Yes, they all exist, and most of them have plus size heroines. But this is the one that I've just recently read, and that is Bad for the Boss. And this book is bonkers. Like, let's just put it out there. It's crazy. But also, this cover art is not great because I don't think this is representative of the hero, in my opinion. Maybe I'm being judgy, not seeing the full face, but the hero in this one is actually a 40-year-old Asian man, and the heroine is 26-year-old, she's 23 or 26, I can't remember, black heroine whose name is Jennifer Johnson. So I love when a heroine's name is Jennifer. It makes me very happy, not gonna lie. So she is working at this like marketing agency, and he's not like her direct boss, but I think he's actually a boss a level up from her, and she's actually having a little bit of sexual harassment from another character, ironically enough, and she sends an email to her friend who has a last name very similar to the boss. And so she actually accidentally sends this email to the boss doesn't name the person, but like says that she was being harassed by this bozo. And Theo, the hero, like kind of messages back and is like, you're being harassed by someone? But they end up with this kind of humorous like where she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, sir. I did not mean, I meant my friend is just one letter away from you on the email. And like, I totally relate. I totally did that before when I worked at Microsoft, and there was like thousands of employees who their names are very close. Anyway, and he ends up inviting her into his office the next day to try to find out who was harassing her, because he knows she's not going to HR and he wants to find out. And funnily enough, right, this scenario where he's trying to find out who's harassing her ends with him fingering her on his desk. So you can tell what I mean by being bonkers, but this was only like novella length and it was fun. It was pretty sexy too. Also, there's a stalker in this who's not the hero. There's stalking happening, and I had a great time. He loves her body. I definitely would say she's very like robust plus size too. And Talia Hibbert did a great job of continually using words to show the size of the heroine without it being like an unflattering thing. But even at one point, like she's riding him and he's squeezing her ass, and it was like he was cupping her fat ass, and I was like, yes, say it like it is. I don't know. I love that, especially when it, like fat is literally being used where like he's loving what's happening. So who cares if you call it a fat ass or not? He likes that. I appreciate it. Okay. Next there is another author who they have, well, authors who have plus size heroines quite often. And in fact, I'm going to show you some of the art in just a second. I have Claimed by the Alien Warrior, which I had actually already read before it was in Renegade Romance Box. So I have this signed by Tiffany and Robert. I actually have an interview with Tiffany and Robert. They are the sweetest. I'll see if I remember to link that up here, but I absolutely love them. And this one is about our heroine who, the hero, he was being kept captive by the government and he actually escapes. And he ends up commandeering our heroine who she's driving, I think, across the country because she just broke up with her boyfriend maybe or lost her job. She lost her job, apartment, and boyfriend. There we go, in one afternoon. And Zoe's the heroine's name. So she's on the way and then the green four-armed and sexy as sin alien proves her wrong by dragging her into his frantic escape. So he is kind of like forcing her to drive him away. And they have this like cross-country trip. So you can see how beautiful she is on the cover of this. But now I have a spicy one. Let's see. I think I just have to cover, I don't know how to cover the spice. But like she's plus size and it's great. There's some booty there. I have some art. I'm covering his peen and her nips there. But I have this art from the Renegade box and it's beautiful. She's just curvy and delicious. So absolutely recommend. And again, quite a few of Tiffany and Robert's books have plus size heroines in them. So there's that. Then, of course, I won't talk too long about this book because I talk about it all the fucking time. But Between Wrath and Mercy by Jess Weisskopf. This is even an older heroine. She's in her mid-30s. She has a child. She has the full figure of a woman who's had a child and isn't, you know, a stick figure. And our hero, who is a prince, and this is their like second chance romance. They're trying to find her daughter together who she had with another man, her husband. And like, he wants his woman back. I don't know another way to say it, but she's plus size, average size. It's great. Jess does a great job writing her and he is obsessed with her. He loves her and all of herself. The fan art that Jess has had done for this book is amazing. All right, then we have some historicals to share. So we have Brazen and the Beast by Sarah MacLean. This one will be one of the number one ones that comes up if you look for curvy heroines. But this one has Hattie. A lot of people love Hattie. I love Hattie. Hattie and Beast. And, you know, this book involves her tying him to a mast at one point. It's great. She has lots of awesome skills. But this starts with her. I believe this is one where, like, she's going to live the year of Hattie. Because, like, did she turn 30? I think she's turned 30. It's been a while since I've read this. I'm sorry. I have a vlog where I read all three of these books. It's been a little bit. But she wants to go to a brothel and lose her virginity. And she ends up being kind of, like, foiled in that attempt. But along the way, she runs into Beast, who ends up being in her carriage at one point, and then now they've interacted and now he's kind of obsessed with her, and then it spins off from there. I just did a horrible job explaining that, and I apologize to everyone who loves this book. My brain is just forgot everything. But plus size heroine, look at how beautiful she is. Sarah MacLean, she has a few plus size heroines too. Just some of them are in books that I haven't read, so I didn't show those, but definitely love this trilogy that these ones are in, and this one is wonderful. Then we have Dearest Rogue, which I will show you the back. This one, this step back. This step back doesn't do a super great job showing that she's plus size. I always thought like the front did kind of good because like her like width and like her chest, I always thought they did. But then you like look at the step back and I'm like, oh, now it could be it's a side view, but whatever. But this one is one of my favorites in the Maiden Lane series. You can read these ones as standalones if you want to. So you could jump right to this one. I, of course, wish you'd read the whole series. But I understand if you don't. Because this series is long. One of my friends, this is like the only book in the series she's read. But this is about Phoebe. And she is young and beautiful and plus size, and she's almost completely blind. And so she has a bodyguard who is an ex, like, man who worked for the King's Dragoons, but he was injured earlier in the series. So Captain James Trevelyan, he's become her bodyguard, and he's very grumpy, and he keeps himself pushed back from her, and she very much, like, she thinks she hates him. She mostly does because he seems unaffected by her, and she's very attracted to him. And I love this because it's actually the heroine kisses first in this one, and he very much is resisting her because it's his job to protect her, and it wouldn't be appropriate for him to fall for her, but he just can't resist. And I love these two together. This is also age gap, and they both have different disabilities. He has a limp and he needs to use a cane most of the time, or a walking stick. And yeah, she's mostly blind, and it's only getting worse for her. She's degeneratively losing her sight, but I love these two. Then we have Chasing Cassandra by Lisa Kleypas. Lisa Kleypas also has a few plus-size heroines, but this is the one I love the most, and I love Cassandra. She wants nothing more than to get married, and I love that, especially in the beginning of this. She wants to be married, and she's kind of bummed because all of her other sisters have gotten married, and they're ones who didn't want to be married, but somehow she still isn't, and she's sad about it. And in the beginning of this book, she meets Tom, who is a railway magnate, and I think he's invited to her sister's wedding because he's marrying, like, her sister's marrying, like, his friend. And Tom doesn't believe in love. He's very logical. He believes you only have room for a few emotions, and love isn't one of them for him. And he is a made man. He's made himself a railway magnate, but he's very intrigued by Cassandra, and they end up having kind of this, like, interesting friendship where in the beginning of this book, we're seeing them run into each other at, like, different times, and they actually acknowledge that they have a lot of chemistry, but she wants to be in love and be married, and he doesn't believe in love, and he might want a mistress, but he doesn't think he'll want a wife. And even if he gets a wife, it won't be for love, it'll be for business purposes. And so they just agree to be friends because they realize that their dreams are at cross purposes, but they keep running into each other and feeling this pull between each other. And when something, like, I don't want to say, like, awful habit, but something unfortunate happens to Cassandra that could ruin her reputation badly, Tom gets to be a hero, and it's in the way that he's a hero just is everything I love. Like, it's so fantastic. It just makes my heart so full and so happy the way that he is a hero for Cassandra. And there's a scene in here where Cassandra negotiates her own wedding contract with Tom, and it's one of my favorite things ever. I love it. And as always, I love all of the families in the Robinells. So love, love, love. Then there is Kerrigan Byrne. Kerrigan Byrne also has a couple plus-size heroines, but my favorite would have to be Cecilia. This is a part of the Red Rogues series. It's also called, like, the Devil You Know series, and it kind of spins off from the Victorian Rebels because there are some crossover characters you'll see. But this one is about a judge. He's a Chief Lord Justice, Ramsay, and he's trying to investigate the goings-on in a London gaming hell that could be known for, I think it's supposed to be, like, is it child trafficking that's happening there, or just, like, sex trafficking? I can't remember, but it's bad. And it happens that Cecilia had a benefactor who owned this gambling establishment, and she actually has inherited it, and she knows nothing about it or what's happening there or any of that. So when she gets given this establishment, and Ramsay is this, like, investigator who's trying to tear it down, she's very overwhelmed with it. Also is the fact that they have met before at a party or a wedding or something, I can't remember, and he was extremely attracted to her, and he's very, like, scared by that because he doesn't want to be ruled by his emotions at all, but he's so attracted to her. And then when he meets her in the capacity of her being the owner of this gambling house, she's actually wearing a disguise, so he doesn't recognize her, and she sees this completely different side of him when he's being all fierce and like fighting for truth and everything, and it's so. But then when there are some attacks that happen against this gambling hell, she ends up in danger and needs to be kept safe, and so she ends up going to stay with him at his land for a while. And yeah, he is so into her body in this, and I love how Kerrigan Byrne writes that. All right, then I just have two more. One is Misadventures of a Curvy Girl by Sierra Simone. Sierra Simone also has a few curvy heroines, and this one is actually I can't remember if it's MMF or MFM. I'm sorry that I can't remember. It's been a while since I read this one, but I'm pretty sure it's two firefighters and this heroine. And the books in the Misadventure series are usually very quick. They're almost all novella length, and it ends up being like a why choose scenario. And I don't normally like love those, but the way that Sierra Simone writes it, I do. So this is just a quick rec. Check it out. She's fun. And then the last one I want to recommend is a Katie Robert. This is Electric Idol. We have Psyche, who is one of the daughters of, what's her name? Demeter, I think. And she ends up getting on the wrong side of Aphrodite. And so Aphrodite sends her son Eros, who is her assassin, and is seen as like being the, tool of his mother. He gets sent to kill her, but because of an earlier scenario where she was kind to him, he doesn't want to kill her. So to save her, he offers her marriage to him to keep him safe. And it's also going to be, of course, just a marriage of convenience. But then they're like, but wait, we should at least have a wedding night to consummate it, to make sure it can't be like annulled or anything. And then it goes from there. And I do have art for this one as well. Let me see. I think I just have to cover a nip here. But this is a gorgeous, you can just see how beautiful she is. Katie Robert does a great job getting good art for her characters. So Psyche is a influencer. So another reason why Aphrodite wants her down is she's seen as very beautiful. So this is one where Psyche is just very comfortable in herself. And I think that Katie Robert does a really great job writing those. So there you go. There is my stack of plus-sized heroines, and I hope you enjoy them. I will try to remember to tag the other video I did with plus-size heroines here. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this. Again, thank you to my patrons and channel members for sticking around with me, and I'll see you in the next video, y'all. Bye!